for the first time ever, a criminal trial involving a former president. Donald Trump arriving at court facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up an alleged hush money payment to Stormy Daniels to hide their alleged affair from voters before the 2016 election. Trump in the courtroom today as the first 96 potential jurors filed in, the judge asking them if they could be fair and impartial. And with Donald Trump right there watching, more than half of them raising their hands to say they could not be impartial. They were led from the room, and the jurors who did remain, they were asked pages of questions in front of Trump. Jury selection could take weeks. Our senior investigative correspondent, Eric Gutersky, leading us off tonight at the courthouse.
Tonight, Donald Trump walking into the courtroom on the 15th floor of New York State Supreme Court in Lower Manhattan, the first president in U.S. history to stand trial as a criminal defendant.
Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. This is an outrage that this case was brought.
Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to keep her allegations of an affair secret from voters during the 2016 campaign. In court, the former president sitting stern-faced as jury selection began. The task? Picking 12 jurors and 6 alternates to pass judgment on one of the most famous men on the planet. Trump flicking his eyes toward the first 96 potential jurors as they filed in. One woman giggling, hand over her mouth, eyebrows raised as she recognized him. Judge Juan Merchan explaining a fair juror is a person who has no bias or prejudice in favor of or against a party or witness. With Trump watching from the defense table, more than half the potential jurors then raised their hand, signaling they could not be fair and impartial, an unusually high number. Those people immediately excused. One of them heard in the hallway saying, "I just couldn't do it." About a dozen other people were excused for other reasons. The ones that were left were then called to the jury box to answer one by one a 7-page questionnaire, screening for bias. Trump following along, holding the questionnaire in his hand. The judge excused one woman who answered yes to a question about whether she had strong opinions about Trump that would interfere with her ability to be fair. A man who works at a bookstore said, "I believe that nobody is above the law, whether it be a former president, a sitting president, or a janitor." The judge allowed him to remain in the jury pool. But by the end of the day, not a single juror had been seated.
It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever.
Judge Merchan today making some other key decisions in the case. One of them about the Access Hollywood tape where Trump bragged about groping women.
When you're a star, they let you do it.
The judge ruling prosecutors could quote from the tape, but they could not play it in court. He also ruled jurors can hear from former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who claims the National Enquirer paid her for a story of an alleged affair with Trump, only to bury it, a practice known as catch and kill. She will likely be a witness for the prosecution, as will Stormy Daniels herself. Trump denies having affairs with both women.
So let's bring in Aaron Gutersky live with us from New York tonight outside the courthouse. Aaron, we know that people in the U.S. have such strong opinions one way or the other involving Donald Trump. You have to wonder how long it's going to take to try to seat a jury in this case. And as I understand it, Aaron, both prosecutors and the defense, Donald Trump's attorneys, will be allowed to eliminate a certain number of potential jurors here.
They will, David, but first the judge is making some initial cuts based on the responses to those jury questionnaires. Then the lawyers get to question the remaining potential jurors one-on-one. Each side can cut up to 10 people for almost any reason. The judge has set aside 2 weeks for all of this, and then once the testimony gets underway, the trial could last 6 weeks.
And of course, Aaron, all of this playing out while Donald Trump is the Republican presidential nominee. There's a campaign underway. There are multiple other cases also he faces. And Trump today asked the judge for permission to attend arguments in the federal case. Those arguments at the Supreme Court next week over presidential immunity and whether it covers him. But the judge denying Trump's request.
He did, David. The judge said it's a big deal to argue before the U.S. Supreme Court. But the judge saying being a criminal defendant on trial in New York is also a big deal. He wants him here. This kind of conflict, David, was bound to happen. Trump's courthouse appearances now fully woven into his political strategy. And David, his campaign is winding from one courtroom to another. David?
Aaron Gutersky leading us off tonight. Aaron, thank you.